So, hi, comic book fans, and welcome to another suddenlycomics.com video. And I've got a bit of a special today because I've asked Alan if he'll just comment on something that's happened in the comics world that has absolutely outraged me. And that is that a school board in Tennessee has banned mouse from its curriculum.
Oh.
So this is Art Spiegelman's Mouse, Pulitzer Prize winner for this comic. It's one of the premium graphic novels ever written. It's a personal story about Art Spiegelman's father, his relationship with his father, and how his father struggled in Nazi Germany. You know, and it's a cautionary tale for the future. You know, we should learn from history, and this is one of those books that we should learn from, you know, and loads of schools have got it on their curriculum, but some school board in Tennessee has decided to ban it because it contains, and I quote, bad language and nudity. Well, the only bad language in this is somewhere somebody says damned. And the only nudity is his mother commits suicide and she's found dead in a bath in one panel.
Okay, so I'll give you my opinion, and my opinion might surprise you in a way, because I'm very against censorship. I'm very, very, very against censorship. It depends for me on what age group they offer that book. I think it's too mature for junior high. I think it's acceptable for high school, if that makes sense.
I think they've banned it across the board.
Yeah, I mean, so my point is, if it's removed from elementary and junior high, fine. I'm totally fine with that, because I think you gotta let people be at the right age where they can accept
what age?
Suicide.
I've got some sympathy with you. So what age do you think it's acceptable?
As I said, high school, I think it's perfectly acceptable.
What age is that? I'm not familiar with the amount.
Oh, so that's like grade 9, 10, 11, 12. So the last few years. Okay.
So what, about 14, 15?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. So I think you're mature enough by that age.
Yeah.
To be able to, I think my big things would be the suicide. I think that might be a bit too much for younger audiences, and then or readers, or I should say, and then the other thing is the Holocaust, and you know,
I mean, that suicide is not the worst thing in here.
I know. I'm just saying, like, you know, the Holocaust and, like, you know, Nazi thing. I think that might be a bit too much for younger readers. But I think all of that's perfectly fine for high school. Like when I was in high school in grade 10, we were learning about the Second World War, and my teacher actually played one of the Russians when they kind of rescued the people from these death camps. They recorded it.
Yeah, they did.
They actually they have videos. So
they did.
And it was. My teacher played that video in the class.
That's really interesting. Do you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to say, what's interesting there is I went to a British public school, and I remember when I think I was about 11 or 12, my school teacher showed us that film footage.
And it's just got the bulldozers, like, literally, like, plowing bodies into mass graves, and it's almost like the rag dolls, you know. Like, it was kind of weird. It was like kind of surreal to watch in a way, and it really kind of, I think, hits home the level of the atrocity of it. And so I think I was mature enough at that age to handle, which, you know, if you think about it, that's like a snuff film times 1,000. Like, I mean, that's like pretty full on. So I think that's the level of maturity you need to be. Like, as I said, high school. If I had seen that as a child, I would think that would have maybe detrimental effects on me. So I think there has to be a certain level of maturity. So I don't mind when they like remove certain books from young children's, whereas things like that really give like an important message, like the dangers of socialism, the dangers of Nazism, which is a form of socialism. I always tell people this: it's not a far right like ideology; it's a far left ideology. Nazism. It's one of those things where they're not as willing to have that in the educational systems.
Well, one of the features, of course, of those type of political groups is one of the first things they do is ban books.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what Hitler did.
That's what Hitler did. And what are these people doing in Tennessee? Banning books.
Not a good path.
No, and I actually saw Art Spiegelman still alive, and I saw an interview he did on CNN following this. And he said, look, I had to control my initial, angry response. I just flabbergasted. And he said, what really struck home was he said, what worries me is that this is a harbinger of what we're going to get in the future.
Yeah.
Are we seeing America swing into extreme political views? I hope not.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I like about the US, and it's the only country that actually has this properly done in terms of law, is the fact that they have the Second Amendment. Or is it the First Amendment? First Amendment for the freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's essential for any society. That's why I probably shouldn't mention this, but who's going to get mad at me? I am my own boss. So, so one of the things that I was against was the whole way that they handled the coronavirus, the governments. And one of the things that bothered me the most was the censorship around even talking about whether or not the vaccine was good. And it really creates two problems. And this kind of applies to books in general, that you don't want to censor things, even if you don't agree with them. So with the coronavirus, like let's say the reason that they gave for censoring any negative viewpoints was that they feared that, people wouldn't take the vaccine if they had doubts. But what ends up happening, and this is what I believe actually happened, is because they basically censored anyone that gave a different opinion, and they wouldn't allow you to even talk about it, even question it. It actually created more doubt, because what are they not telling us? What are they? That's the kind of
exactly.
Exactly. That's
100% agree. I'm a liberal with a capital L, and I don't like censorship.
Yeah.
And yes, I agree with you. There was a guy in the UK. There was a guy in the UK, and he was I think he was called Old Man in a Chair, and he was an old journalist, and he used to go on YouTube, and they used to, he was anti-vaccine. He's an anti-vaccinator. And he's been to be fair to him, he was an ex-doctor as well. He had been a medical doctor. And he's been an anti-vaccinator for 30
whatever
years. And he would come on, and he would give and he was a very good speaker. He could speak, for 20-30 minutes on a subject about why vaccination was wrong, and why we shouldn't be forcing everybody to take that. And and my view is you've got to allow those. And he disappeared he disappeared.
Well, they cancel him.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Yeah, he disappeared, and I did not agree with that. I might not have agreed with all his views, but exactly as you're saying, if you censor it, then you're now getting into that sort of society, where it's like Orwellian. It's like we're only being told what they want us to hear. Well, and once you head down that route, where do you stop?
So that's my first concern, actually, that it might even have the opposite effect, where it actually makes more people more entrenched in not getting a vaccine. because they feel like, oh, it's some government kind of conspiracy, or it even becomes more that way. But my second concern is actually the effectiveness of the vaccine itself. So let's say the vaccine is 90%. I don't even think it's that high, but 90% effective. I would actually want it to be 100% effective. But you don't get 100% effective if you're not allowed to disagree with it. So if Pfizer can produce a vaccine that's 90% effective and nobody questions it and says, hey, can't we do better? Then they won't have to do better. But if you question it and then they just can't sell it because nobody will accept it, then they have to improve it. Do you see the difference? Like, see how that works?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just because we couldn't question it, we couldn't even improve it.
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that one. That's sort of like necessity is the mother of invention. If I don't need to do it, why should I do it?
Yeah. And so these are the things. So with censorship, it's always these things like sometimes even the opinions that are bad or wrong or things that you just can't handle actually lead to new innovations, new things that, like, one of the things that I always enjoy is talking with somebody that I completely disagree with.
Yeah.
Because what it does with me is it helps me improve my argument, so that the next time I get into that situation, I'll have a better rationale, maybe better way of explaining it.
Yeah. Well, I used to be chair of the debating society at my university. Mm-hmm. And one of the major skills that you need as a debater is to put yourself, it's to argue both sides. Yeah, to argue both sides, or to argue the case that you don't actually believe in, because what it forces you to do is to think about, why is that other person have this view? What are their arguments? Because once you understand their arguments, you can actually counter their arguments better because you've understood their position. And quite a lot of time, I would start arguing passionately about something that I actually didn't believe in. And people would say, how can you believe? I said, I'm not. I'm just being devil's advocate to try and get you to think about, what the people who do think this, their reasons for thinking it. And if you ban it, you're not going to find that out. Yeah.
So my school actually, like when I grew up, I went into the International Baccalaureate program. So I was the first class in Canada that did it.
Oh,
so it was a big deal, actually.
Yeah.
Did it.
Yeah.
And one of the teachers that was a big supporter of setting this up in my school, he was the one that ran the debating team. And he was like a real intellectual. He was a really smart guy, believed in freedom of speech, believed in like the freedom to discuss ideas, even the ones that you shouldn't, like taboo.
Yeah.
He was really open to that idea. Just discuss things, get it out. And he ingrained that into us when we were doing debating. So we would literally start the debate one side, and then the second time we'd do a second round where we debate the other side.
Yeah.
And we had to do both with equal passion. And because of that, training, our team won North American championships.
Yeah.
Because we did so well, they actually had us compete against the Harvard debating team.
Yeah.
And we beat them as well.
Oh, excellent.
Okay. So that's the level of debate skill that we had. I didn't make the team. I can't brag that I made the team, but I came close.
It was probably your being bad with names.
Well, my big problem was I had this weird thing where I was trying to like bring in weird words. Like I wanted to always have my debate include the word banana. So just as a joke, like I always like to try to like give myself like these challenges in terms of like public speaking. And like, how do you introduce, like, talk about anything, but you have to introduce like some random word like banana. And so what happened was the debate that was going to determine whether I make the team or not. I introduced, like, we were talking about age is wasted on the young. Okay.
Yeah.
So I referred to bananas, and I said bananas, like, like when you get a fresh banana, it's like really great. And, and then the person that was going against me, she was a girl, was a really smart girl. She said, well, you know, bananas, when they get older, they become sweeter. And she used that, and it just destroyed my whole banana thing. I lost. I got totally destroyed by her. You know, just she destroyed my banana. So that was my thing. That was the debate that I could have made the team if it wasn't for that. So, but I was very good at like going both sides and really seeing both perspectives.
Okay, thanks, Alan, for your view on that. I knew it would be interesting, and you did manage to get bananas into the conversation.
And I got bananas into this conversation too.
Yeah, right. So thanks for that. I'm going to put a link to Art Spiegelman responding to this because it's a really interesting interview on CNN with Art Spiegelman. He doesn't manage to get bananas into the conversation. So I think you get onto the debating team. Right. Thanks, Alan. Bye.